James had left for work 20 minutes earlier. He'd kiss me goodbye like he always does, quick peck, hand on my waist, love you, babe, as he grabbed his keys. He'd worn his navy jacket yesterday. It was supposed to rain. But the weather turned, so he'd swapped it for his grey one this morning. I found the phone in my husband's jacket pocket on a Tuesday morning. It was an iPhone, older model, black case, no scratches. The kind of phone you buy with cash at a strip mall. The kind that doesn't connect to your family plan. I should have waited for him to come home and asked him about it. But you know what happens in that moment when you find something hidden. Your brain splits in two. Half of you screams, "Don't look," and the other half is already pressing the power button. My hands were shaking as I opened messages. There was one contact. No name. Just a phone number. The most recent text was from 3 days ago. The message read, "Same time tomorrow? I miss you already. Can't wait. I'll bring what you asked for. You're so good to me." I scrolled up. There were hundreds of messages. Months of them. Tonight was perfect. I think about you all the time. When can I see you again? My stomach dropped into my feet. It was like a movie. I opened the Photos app. There were 43 pictures. But they weren't what I expected. I saw a picture. It wasn't Emma nor Noah. A little boy I'd never seen before. He looked about 3 years old. Dark curly hair. Brown eyes. Wearing a dinosaur t-shirt in one photo. There were pictures of him at a park. At a zoo. In someone's living room. One photo showed him holding James's hand. I felt like I was going to throw up. Questions were popping into my head. What did this mean? An affair? Obviously. But the child isn't James' own? Had he been living a double life? Did he have another family? I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed where we'd made love just 2 nights ago, and tried to breathe. 9 years of marriage gradually slippery away. How do you hide an entire child? I didn't confront James that day. I know what you're thinking. Why not? Why didn't I call him immediately and scream? Because I needed to know everything first. If I confronted him, he'd lie. He'd minimize. He'd have time to craft a story. I wrote down the phone number from his messages. I reverse searched it online. Nothing came up, probably a burner number. I checked our bank statements going back 6 months. Nothing unusual. No large cash withdrawals. No suspicious charges. James made good money as a project manager. I worked part-time as a graphic designer from home. We were comfortable but not rich. Where was he getting money for whatever this was? Then I remembered, 3 months ago, James's grandmother died. She left him $15,000. He'd said he put it in savings. I logged into our savings account. Not all at once. Small withdrawals over 3 months. 500 here. 800 there. Never enough to trigger my attention. But all of it, gone. That evening, James came home like nothing was wrong. He played with the kids. He asked about my day. He heated up leftovers for dinner. He was so normal. How was this the same man with a hidden phone? With secret photos of another child? After the kids went to bed, James said he needed to run to Home Depot for light bulbs. It closes at 9, he said. I'll be back in 9:30. He kissed my forehead and left. I waited 5 minutes. Then I followed him. He didn't go to Home Depot. He drove 15 minutes across town to an older apartment complex I'd never seen before. He parked, grabbed 2 shopping bags from the trunk, groceries, I could see milk and cereal, and walked into Building C. I sat in my car 3 spaces away, engine off, heart hammering. He was in there for an hour. When he came out, he was smiling. That soft smile he gets when he's genuinely happy. He got back in his car and left. I sat there for another 10 minutes, staring at Building C. Then I got out and walked to the directory by the entrance. Building C, Unit 207, M. Rodriguez. 3 days of watching my husband smile at me over breakfast. 3 days of him asking Emma about her spelling test. 3 days of goodnight kisses that felt like lies. On Friday night, after the kids were asleep, I put the hidden phone on the coffee table between us. "What's this?" I said. James looked at the phone. His face went white. "Sarah, don't." My voice was shaking. "Don't lie to me. I've seen the messages. I've seen the pictures. I followed you to that apartment." He put his head in his hands. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then James looked up at me, and his eyes were wet. "His name is Matteo," he said quietly. "He's 3.5. My heart stopped. "Is he yours?" "No." James shook his head. "He's my nephew." "Sort of. What does that mean?" James stood up and walked to the window. He couldn't look at me. "You know I grew up in foster care," he said. "What I never told you was that when I was 16, I was placed with a family that had another foster kid. Miguel. He was 14. We became brothers. Real brothers. For 2 years, we were inseparable. I didn't say anything. I didn't even breathe. When I aged out at 18, I went to college on scholarships. Miguel got moved to another home. We tried to stay in touch, but life happened. I was building a career. We drifted." James's voice cracked. 5 months ago, I got a call from a social worker. Miguel died. Drug overdose. He'd been struggling for years, and I didn't even know. He had a son. Matteo. 3 years old. The mother's not in the picture. She gave up custody when Matteo was 6 months old. Miguel was raising him alone. James turned to look at me. Matteo was about to go into the foster system. The same system that broke Miguel. The same system that almost broke me. "So you?" "I'm paying for his foster care. I found him a placement with a woman named Maria Rodriguez. She's incredible, Sarah. She's patient and kind, and Matteo is thriving. But the state assistance barely covers rent. So I've been helping with groceries, clothes, toys, medical bills." I felt like I'd been punched. "You've been supporting a child," I said slowly. "A child from your dead foster brother. For 5 months. And you didn't tell me. I'm sorry for that. You let me think you were having an affair. I thought you had a secret family. I thought our entire marriage was a lie. I'm sorry. Why didn't you just tell me? Why did you hide it?" James sat back down. He looked exhausted. Defeated. "Because I knew you'd say we can't afford it," he said quietly. "And you'd be right. We can't. We have 2 kids of our own. We have a mortgage. Your mom's medical bills. Emma needs braces next year." He wasn't wrong. Money was tight. It was always tight. "I knew if I told you, you'd make me stop," James continued. "And I can't stop, Sarah. Matteo is Miguel's son. He's the only family Miguel left behind. If I don't help him, who will? So you used your grandmother's inheritance. You bought a burner phone. You lied to me every time you went to see him. Yes. You treated me like I was the enemy instead of your partner." James looked at me with tears streaming down his face. "I know. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to do both. How to be a good husband and a good brother. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to James, a foot of space between us, and stared at the ceiling. Part of me understood. God, part of me even admired what he was trying to do. He was helping a child who'd been dealt the worst hand. A child who'd lost his father. A child who reminded James of himself. How could I be angry about that? But he'd lied. For months. He'd hidden an entire portion of his life from me. How could I not be angry about that? And there was the money. $15,000 that was supposed to be for our family. For emergencies. For Emma's braces. For the leaky roof we kept putting off. James was playing hero to a child who wasn't ours, while our own kids went without. I was confused at this point if it was that fair. Or was that selfish? I didn't know anymore. At 2 in the morning, I got up and made coffee. James came downstairs a few minutes later. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared thousands of meals, helped with homework, made decisions about paint colors and pediatricians. I need to meet him, I said. James looked surprised. Matteo. And Maria. I need to see what you've been doing with our money. Okay. And after that, we're going to make a decision. Together. Like we should have done 5 months ago. James reached across the table. I let him take my hand. I'm sorry I didn't trust you, he said. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't enough. Like our family wasn't enough. I'm sorry you felt like you couldn't tell me the truth, I said. I'm sorry you thought I'd choose money over a child's life. Would you have? I thought about it. Honestly thought about it. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe. Probably. But you didn't give me the chance to surprise you. It was Saturday afternoon, we went to apartment 207. Maria answered the door. She was in her 50s, warm smile, kind eyes. She immediately hugged James like he was her own son. You must be Sarah, she said. James talks about you all the time. Matteo was in the living room, playing with dinosaurs on the carpet. When he saw James, his whole face lit up. James! He ran over and wrapped his arms around James's legs. I watched my husband pick up this little boy. This child who wasn't his but somehow was, and I felt something shift in my chest. Matteo had Miguel's eyes. You could see it in the shape, the color. And when he smiled, it was like a ghost I'd never met was smiling through him. Matteo, James said gently, this is my wife, Sarah. Can you say hi? Matteo looked at me shyly. Then he held up a plastic T-Rex. This is Rex, he said. He eats bad guys. I knelt down. That's a very cool dinosaur. Want to play? I'd love to. While James played with Matteo, Maria and I sat on the small balcony. He didn't tell you, did he? Maria said. It wasn't really a question. No. Men will always be men. She shook her head. They think they have to carry everything alone. How bad is it? I asked. Financially, I mean. Maria was quiet for a moment. Without James's help, I'd have to send Matteo back to the state. My retirement barely covers my own expenses. The foster care stipend is $400 a month. That doesn't even cover food and clothes, much less daycare while I work part-time. What happens if James stops helping? Matteo goes into group care. Maybe gets placed with another family if he's lucky. Maybe bounces around for years. Maria looked at me directly. I was a social worker for 30 years. I've seen what that does to kids. I watched through the window as Matteo climbed onto James's back, laughing. James told me about Miguel, Maria continued. About how they were brothers. About how Miguel fell through the cracks. She paused. James is trying to catch Matteo before he falls through the same cracks. By bankrupting his own family. No, Maria said softly. By expanding his definition of family. In the car on the way home, I told James what Maria had said. I can't let him go into the system, James said. I can't, Sarah. I've been there. I know what it does. I know. But I also can't keep lying to you. I can't keep choosing between you and him. I stared out the window at the passing houses. Families inside. Lives I'd never know. What if we didn't have to choose? I said. James looked at me. What do you mean? What if we became his foster family? The car swerved slightly. James pulled over. Sarah, we can't. We don't have room. We don't have money. Emma and Noah are all ready. Emma and Noah could share a room, I interrupted. The guest room could be Matteo's. We'd qualify for the foster care stipend. It wouldn't cover everything, but it's something. You do that? I turned to look at my husband. Really look at him. You were right, I said. About me saying we can't afford it. You were right that I would have chosen our comfort over his need. My voice cracked. But I also deserved the chance to prove you wrong. We didn't tell Maria right away. We didn't tell Matteo. First, we told Emma and Noah. How would you guys feel about having a little brother? James asked at dinner that night. Emma looked suspicious. Are you having another baby? No, I said. But there's a little boy who needs a family. His name is Matteo. He's 3. And he needs somewhere safe to live. Where are his parents? Noah asked. James answered honestly. His dad died. And his mom couldn't take care of him. That's sad, Emma said. She thought for a moment. Would he share my toys? Probably. Would he sleep in Noah's room? No, you'd share with Noah. Matteo would get the guest room. Emma and Noah looked at each other. Some silent sibling communication I couldn't read. Then Noah said, "Can he play Mario Kart?" "We can teach him," James said. Okay, Emma decided. He can be our brother. It was that simple for them. I wished it was that simple for me. 3 months later, Matteo Rodriguez became Matteo Rodriguez Chen. Chen is my maiden name. James kept his foster system last name, Smith. When we got married, I hyphenated. Now, so did Matteo. The foster care process was exhausting. Background checks. Home visits. Classes on trauma-informed parenting. We passed. Maria cried when we told her. She said she'd visit every week. She's kept that promise. The first night Matteo slept in our house, he woke up screaming at 2 a.m. Night terrors. James held him for an hour, rocking him, singing the same lullaby he used to sing to Emma and Noah. I watched from the doorway and thought about trust. About how James broke mine by hiding his secret life. But also about how I almost broke his by being exactly who he feared I'd be, the person who'd choose money over compassion. We were both wrong. We were both right. Marriage is like that sometimes. Messy. Complicated. Grey where you expect black and white. 6 months after Matteo moved in, I found the hidden phone again. It was in James's sock drawer. He'd kept it. I asked him why. It reminds me, he said, of what almost got lost. Matteo. Us. James sat next to me on the porch steps. That phone represents every time I chose secrecy over partnership. Every time I decided I knew better than you. Every time I treated our marriage like a negotiation instead of a team. And now? Now I keep it to remember that trust isn't automatic. I broke ours. We rebuilt it. But it's never the same as before, or it's better. Stronger. Because we broke and chose to fix it. I looked at the phone in my hands. The same phone that made me think my marriage was over. The phone that led me to Matteo. You know what the worst part was? I said. Not the lying. Not the money. It was realizing you didn't think I'd be good enough. You didn't think I'd choose love over convenience. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, I said. Because part of me wasn't sure either. Part of me wanted to say no when you suggested fostering Matteo. Part of me still wants to say it's too hard, too expensive, too complicated. But then Matteo calls me Tia Sarah. And Emma reads him bedtime stories. And Noah teaches him how to catch a ball. I looked at James. And I realized family was never supposed to be convenient. It was supposed to be chosen. Inside, we could hear the kids laughing. Emma was doing her homework at the dining table. Noah was building Legos. Matteo was coloring, probably on something he shouldn't be, but we'd deal with that later. It was chaos. It was expensive. It was exhausting. It was ours. People ask me now if I regret finding that hidden phone. I tell them no. But I also tell them the truth. I regret that it took a crisis for us to become the people we should have been all along. James should have trusted me enough to tell me about Matteo from the beginning. I should have been someone he could trust with that truth. We both had to break before we learned how to bend. Loyalty isn't what I thought it was. I thought loyalty meant never keeping secrets. Never lying. Never having a life outside your spouse. But real loyalty is more complicated. It's trusting your partner to surprise you. It's being vulnerable enough to say I'm scared instead of I've got this handled. It's choosing each other, again and again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. James was loyal to his brother's memory. He was loyal to a child who needed him. But he wasn't loyal to our marriage, not fully, until he let me in. And I wasn't loyal to him until I chose grace over anger. That's the real story. Not about a hidden phone. About two people who almost lost everything because they forgot they were on the same team.